Hi guys, welcome to Antique Sprinklers. You might notice that I don't have any sprinklers in front of me here, and so I'm about to explain why that is. This morning I got a text from my good friend Kerry out in San Diego, and you know him from the collaborations we've done on a number of different videos, and we got a couple of things in the works right now. So that wasn't unusual. What was unusual was he sent me a picture of a sprinkler I'd never seen before and asked me if I knew anything about it, and I did not. And he'd actually sent it last night. I'm 3 hours ahead, so it was late last night when I got it, but I didn't see it until this morning. I assume at 3 in the morning Pacific Coast time he was not awake, so that gave me a little buffer to do some research. And right away, I was able to find out some information on the company that made it and the fellow who owned that business. And so we're going to divide up the video with me talking about the company a little bit and the fellow who ran it, and then I'm going to turn it over to Kerry, and he's going to talk about the sprinkler and show it running in operation. And I feel fairly confident that none of you have ever seen this thing before. Maybe one or two of you have, but it's pretty darn rare, and it's unusual that I get interested in a plastic sprinkler, but this one's pretty cool. So what I found out in my quick research this morning is that there was a company in Lindsay, California called Perma, and Perma made a lot of different plastic products, some sprinklers, pipe fittings, all kinds of stuff. And there was this fellow, Harold Wake, who was born around 1925. He was a World War II veteran. He'd been a navigator on B-25 bombers. After that, he studied accounting and became sort of the controller and vice president of a company called Submersible Pump and Service in Lindsay. And they had a business called Perma. And they were selling sprinklers to orchards, and Kerry will get into that a little bit in a little more detail. And eventually, Harold Wake, this fellow I'm talking about, ended up owning that company. And they devised an incredibly, just this ingenious impact sprinkler, and it's a wedge drive. And Harold ran that business for a number of years. The sprinkler was sold by it from about 1964 to 1977 at least. And then in 77, he sold that business to Apache Plastics out there. And I don't think that business is still around anymore. In the meantime, Harold had patented a device for controlling flow in drip irrigation settings. And he had a product called Misty Made for drip and mist irrigations, and they sold that through nurseries and garden centers and large hardware stores and things of that nature. And folks I've talked to in California remember this as a brand, at least in the 1980s, and a lot of times you'd see them as kits for sale. And so he kept that going for many years, and then just last year, at the ripe old age of 100, Harold passed away, and a few short months later, his wife followed him. She was also in her 90s, and so we have just lost Harold. But in my friend Kerry finding this very rare sprinkler, we get to have his memory live on in the annals of irrigation history. And I'm going to get out of the way now, and I'm going to let Kerry show you this thing in operation. Thanks so much for watching.
Here is the unique little impact sprinkler by a company in Lindsay, California called the Perma. I believe it was marketed at the under tree, possibly row crop, but most likely the orchard under tree market in that area for, almonds, peaches, maybe citrus. Unique, and it has an offset body, V-wedge drive, plastic arm, brass counterweight. Unique to this sprinkler is the fact that you can adjust the trajectory from flat to horizontal, probably 15 degree, maybe 35 or 40 degree angle. unique little sprinkler head. This thing is brand new and it's pretty old. Here we have the Perma rain. I'm gonna guess that's running at about a 40-degree angle, possibly 45-degree angle. Pretty high angle. Ease of adjustment. See, it leaks a little bit. There must be some type of a seal in there. It is leaking now. And that is probably almost flat. That's in high angle mode. Kind of provides a mist at a relatively very high angle. Possibly good for misting or frost control. maybe on grapes. I don't see much benefit underneath trees, but possibly for frost control under the trees. Drives fairly strong with the V wedge drive, like any wedge drive sprinkler. Perma in low angle. Perfect for under tree. There's a distance of throw, maybe 15 feet at this point. Higher angle, standard angle is probably 20 feet, maybe 25 at the most. going to show the hassle of quick coupler key with a garden valve on it. They have no swivel, so you see what happens to the hose. It's quite the pain to try to put the quick coupler in without destroying the hose. But this is how you can get, this is a very handy setup this way because you can adjust the water flow as needed. This is why they have the swivel hose L. The swivel hose L works for this purpose so the hose doesn't get kinked. You can see the damage that's happening to the hose from that. It's been cut off and repaired a few times. So this is why I built this. Due to the difficulties with the last quick coupler with garden valve, I built this swivel for a garden valve. You can regulate the water. This is a Rainbird 65 bearing and nipple. The spindle happens to have 1/2-inch pipe thread. Very convenient, as now you don't have to twist the hose around. Works very, very well.